This is Fantology.
You may have heard of us.
All right, what's up, wolves and scars? This is Steven, your host with Phantology Podcast. I have my lifelong friends Ryan and Jake on, and we're talking about The Last of Us Season 2, whole season, full spoilers. We have not played the games, any of us, so we don't know what's happening, like in The Last of Us 2, the video game. So it'll just be speculation. There's no chance of anything accurately being spoiled for season 3 or possibly 4 of the TV show, but speculation and such may happen. Anyway, hey guys, how'd you like the show? What kind of like initial thoughts on the topic?
Well, I liked the show quite a bit. I don't know if I liked it quite as much as season one, but it was
Mm.
still very entertaining, and I was excited for the episode every week. Um, I did want to correct you for a couple of points that you made earlier. First of
Oh
all,
gosh, I already
A
made mistakes.
couple, a
if
couple
you're
points.
if you're a Scar and you're listening to our
Hmm.
podcast, you're not doing a very good job with your beliefs. And second of all,
Hmm.
I have played some of game one, so I am not
Okay,
a total noob as far as The Last of Us games, just
but you do
mostly.
not you haven't played the second game, therefore you do not know what may or may not happen in season 3, right?
I do know some of it because one of my coworkers is a very passionate fan, and I often discuss this with him, and he's a
Okay.
great source of knowledge as far as, oh, this is similar to the games, this isn't. So I do know some of
Hmm.
what happens in game two, but I will limit anything, any knowledge that I have strictly to what has occurred in the season.
Nice. Since we're putting all cards on the table, I too have a friend who is very passionate about The Last of Us, but he has not told me anything that's going to happen forward. So I'm okay. Jake,
I
what secrets are you hiding?
I have no friends outside of Fantology, so
That's what I like to
Lame.
hear.
I mean, that's great. Great dedication.
yeah,
Okay, so yeah,
for
Ryan liked
me,
it. Yeah.
yeah, definitely didn't like it as much as season one. I feel like it didn't really know like what it wanted to do so much with Ellie's character. I feel like, yeah, I was kind of disappointed with her arc this season. Still think it was really good TV. But yeah, it left me wanting more.
So in broad strokes, how would you describe what was her arc and what you didn't like?
It felt like so no spoilers at all for season two right now. Um but
Oh,
No,
okay.
we're not gonna mess around. We're doing
All
spoilers.
oh,
right,
okay,
we're
okay, okay,
jumping
cool,
Yeah.
cool,
straight
cool.
in.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, it just seemed like she vacillated between just wanting revenge and like nothing is more important than revenge and then kind of lollygagging. Like I feel like there
Yeah,
was
totally agree.
like I and it yeah, I feel like I don't know. I get deep into the Reddit theories, and I wonder if because of the backlash to the second game for what there was, I wonder if the writers wanted to tone back some of the vengeance and just didn't do a good job of trying to redo that part. I have no idea, but
Mm.
it felt like there were two different ideas of how Ellie should be in season two, and they kind of got mashed together.
See, in my opinion, it was more along the lines of Ellie has this idea of how she's supposed to be as a person, and she wants to support her friends or support Dina. She wants to doesn't want to endanger their lives, but then when the vengeance is in front of her, when there's somebody there who's was there who tortured, threatened to Joel, she's can't help herself, and she kind of descends into that darkness that lingers. I mean, so
Yeah.
that's what I was thinking, rather than you know there wasn't a clear direction of her character. It was kind of like she
Mm.
wants to be good, she wants to return to Jackson and make sure her friends stay alive, but she also really really wants to hurt the people that hurt Joel.
So,
Yeah, I could
so is
see.
she a confusing, complex character? Or, well, maybe just is she a complex character that needs to be unpacked? Or is she a character that is confusing and presented in a strange way that's just like hard to understand?
I could see the intent being that complex character. To me, it came across more confused than complex.
I was kind of the same. I mean, like in the finale, which I, I thought the finale was probably the weakest episode of the whole season. I thought we can get into it, but it seems like they were trying to do something, and I just don't think that it was a good decision. But anyway, like so she's at the top of the movie theater place with Jesse, and she has the option of either going after Abby down at the aquarium or going to save Tommy, right?
Tommy,
And so she chooses like to your point earlier, Ryan, like she was, choice here between am I gonna avenge Joel or am I gonna go save Tommy? And so in that case, like she clearly chooses avenge Joel over save my like adopted family of Jackson. So I guess I just feel like if she's making that choice, then she should be consistent with like that's her value set is like vengeance over everything really. Because like Tommy is pretty much her and Dina is like all she really has left. But I don't think she was consistent in making those choices throughout the season.
Well, it
yeah,
could,
I agree, and it didn't feel like it built to her making that decision either. Like it seems like what you're saying, Ryan, is you'd want to show like the inconsistency because she's trying to grapple within herself, like what does she truly value most, and then the season finale could be that decision moment where she decides, you know what, I value the vengeance over everything else. But to me, it just felt like another time of, oh, she's doing vengeance right now. But
I mean, in that specific example that Steven listed, you saw she said how she justified her decision. She's like, Tommy's gonna be okay, but he always is, you know. She knows she in her head, she's not saying like she's not justifying this as either or. She thinks, oh, he's gonna be okay. And I'll be all right to get my vengeance. So I think like she's trying to have her cake and eat it too in that example. And I mean, I do think that the finale did a good example of showing like this example of how Ellie has, celebrated Dina being pregnant and like thrilled, they're gonna have a kid, even though it's not her kid. She kind of, sees herself as young in love. This is gonna be her child. And in the same episode, we see that she inadvertently kills Mel, who's pregnant, and Mel gives her the option to, try and save her baby is a long shot, sure, but I mean, there's still a chance there. And Ellie doesn't even try, and so it's like to me, it I don't know that reinforces the conflict. I think that I mean, in my opinion, the writing was good. I felt like I could see you know those conflicting sides of her, and I don't think she sees herself, at least not yet, as somebody who's driven by vengeance. And maybe she's not that person yet. And whether that's because she can't admit it to herself or, some other reason, it didn't come off as, bad or lazy writing to me.
Hmm.
I didn't think it was lazy. I think it was just inconsistent. Like I again, it feels like there were two different goals, two different views of how to write her character, and they kind of got mashed together. That was not saying that that is what happened, but that's what it felt like to me. I will
So,
say, yeah,
I
that
mean, could you
that
give me like an example of, how they could have done that a little bit better?
um yeah, like I think if we wanted to have the decision, like the internal struggle that you were talking about, the way that you interpreted it. Um, I would like to see I'd like to see more of that struggle to choose between vengeance or not, and like I'd like to see that more in the forefront. And it didn't feel like that. It felt like either or, with no every time she made a decision to focus on the vengeance or not focus on the vengeance, it didn't feel like any of the past decisions really weighed into it or past experiences weighed into it. It just felt like, yes, this is, of course, this is what we're doing. This is like what I always do when it wasn't
Like
what
it
she's
didn't
always been
seem
doing.
like a hard choice for her, is what you're saying,
Yeah,
to like
yeah,
to um torture Nora and get the location, try and get the location of Abby.
yeah. It
Or
didn't feel like a choice at all. It just felt like this is, this is the path Ellie is on, but those paths were not aligned.
okay, I mean,
Or
I can see more where you're coming from.
or if they wanted to not have that internal struggle, then like she should have just been like gung ho on vengeance the whole time, or reluctant the whole time. But
And for me, there were at least a couple times where she was kind of playing hero. And like the one time when her and Jesse were holed up in the parking lot, or like in the little parking garage area, and the Seraphite was getting killed by
yeah,
the three wolves or whatever. And she was like, I gotta go save this guy. And
yeah,
I was watching this thinking like, you do? Like, is that really like I don't know. Like why would she want to like where has this it's popped up I guess a couple times, but it just feels at odds with her like vengeance motivation because if the vengeance motivation is the thing, then she should be willing to sacrifice this, this meaningless person to her and like it makes and it also makes logical sense. Like there's three people here. Like it just seemed like something where they were trying to like push to like, hey, Ellie's the hero here, by the way. Like she wants to save the
yeah,
innocent person. But it's like it doesn't make sense logically, nor does it really make sense like why she wants to like she should not be wanting to risk anything for this meaningless person. She should be like, no, I gotta stay back and because if I do this, then I can't do the vengeance thing and I can't protect my friends even or like it there's just some weird things where it just seemed like she was not logical in her decision making always and I just had trouble like predicting okay like what is this person's value set, what exactly would she do in any given situation.
Yeah, I
yeah,
don't. I mean, it's she's like all very, you know, as many characters are driven by emotion, and I think that. Sorry, I keep getting into the weeds here, but I think that specific shot was like good at demonstrating, the differences in Jesse and Ellie's morals. I think Ellie's morals are more like um she values people on how she's experienced them. So in front of her, she sees like this injustice between, this scar being taken by the wolves, and she's like oh, I need to stop this injustice. Whereas Jesse's like, this person's not part of my community. I don't owe them anything. Whereas, Ellie doesn't see, all the injustices that the Seraphites have done to the wolves, and vice versa. And so she's like, but if you've done something bad to Ellie, nothing else matters. None of their justifications. She doesn't care about it. It's like, you've done something bad to me or somebody I care about. I'm gonna do something bad to you. So it's kind of, I don't know. I think that scene also showed like her values a little bit, and where she how she kind of defines like good versus evil.
yeah. And they do have that conversation afterwards, uh, or maybe I think it was after where Jesse's like, "You only care about yourself. Like you don't. I don't trust you to care about the community as a
Yeah,
whole."
that's true.
And but I feel like it didn't, from my viewer experience, it didn't reinforce any internal struggle within Ellie or internal inconsistency in her. Like it didn't feel like she was being called out for her lust for vengeance versus her alleged like hero morality. for me.
Do you
Um,
think that the season would have um been, I think, better suited for another two episodes?
I to me it wasn't to me it was more just I couldn't tell with how they were trying to write her. It didn't feel like a length thing for me. Um, I feel like there was some lack of focus during the middle parts of the season, and but it may just be because I wasn't sure like I feel like they're flip-flopping on how they wanted Ellie to be portrayed.
I guess for me to just tie a bow around my thoughts around Ellie, at the end of the day, she just kind of came across as a hothead, and I had a hard time. Like obviously she wanted to get vengeance for Joel, but at the same time, like she let her emotions like pull her around way too much. I just had trouble like getting behind her as a character and like rooting for her, which I don't necessarily know that you should or you have to, but she just wasn't super interesting to me because I always just figured she was a loose cannon and like who knows what she's gonna do. It's hard to like really dive into the psyche because it's like not even understandable to me. I struggled with her character.
Yeah, I feel like a good character you either like really want to root for or you want to really root against, or the harder thing to do is make that nuance like a Game of Thrones character where you're like, wait, I used to hate you, but now I'm kind of rooting for you.
Mm,
And and maybe that's what they were trying to do with that that like complex conflicted appeal. But to me, it just felt more like I don't really know what to do with you right now.
complex
But
character like Call Hilo, am I right, Ryan?
yes, exactly. Call Hilo, Jade War. You guys should read it.
Nice, Jake.
I know what you guys are talking and reading about.
You're listening to our episodes that are full of spoilers about books
No, no, I'm not listening to the episodes. I just see you messaging in Discord about it.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah,
No
check out Greenbone
spoilers.
Saga. Greenbone Saga has complex characters. All right. So Ellie was I think it makes sense that we started with Ellie. Any last words? Like Ryan, you want to tie a
Oh,
bow around any of your thoughts for Ellie, or should we move on to something else?
I mean, I definitely see your point. I think there were times where I was watching where um I think it was like frustrating to just, see Ellie do things where you're like, why are you doing that? Like, and but I do um I think I looked more favorably on the writing as a whole and Ellie's character than you
Hmm.
guys.
I will say that episode 6, the flashback episode, really made me understand Ellie more because I that conversation on the porch between her and Joel, I didn't realize that that actually happened. The writing first led you to believe that it never did, but when you see that it happened and you see what was said, like I thought that really reinforced where her character was coming from, and it did. Yeah, maybe we should have brought this up early in the discussion, but for a while there, I was like, oh, okay, like I can understand Ellie a little bit more. But then the finale happened, and I just struggled with the finale, which I guess we could either get into that or we could flip back and talk about the big twist, which was Joel dying.
I really liked all the groundwork they laid in the beginning of the season. It's once she went on her quest that I felt like it didn't things didn't really add up for me. I had assumed a conversation like that had happened because like she says like, "Oh, I'm cool with Joel." Like I knew they had some sort of
Mm,
uh resolution there. Um and like I don't know. It seemed like she knew even before they talked about it, like had some sort of hunch. Um,
hmm
Maybe I was reading into that therapy scene too much, where um, she was like, "Is there anything like between you guys?" And Joel didn't say anything, but it seemed like, oh, clearly this is the like a major source of conflict between them.
right.
Um, but yeah, so I feel like the foundation was laid really well, and I think the acting was done really great. I just feel like the writing for me, but
So what did we think of the season two killing off of Ned Stark, or sorry, episode two, your main your main character, father figure, likable lead actor is axed.
It was a bold decision, kind of like the end of season one, like a very bold decision to end it that way. And um, I did not see that coming, and was very surprised. And I was kind of like, well, how are they going to do the show? Like, what's the story? Like,
Yeah,
I knew the story was going to
right.
be vengeance now, but like, how are they going to do that? Um, but
It's obviously
yeah,
it's following the game, but I feel like any other show you expect something like that to happen at the end of the season, in a
Yeah.
yeah,
season finale. And so I think the of course, killing off the main character, like protagonist from season one at the beginning of season two is like, um, you know, well, it's all like big. Now, I think the difficult thing is, getting viewers to buy in for Bella Ramsey. And I think that Bella can act. The only struggle I have with Bella is that um Bella uses they them pronouns, so sometimes I struggle with the um she. So I'm doing my best to mentally
you
get it
Yeah.
got
right.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
But
yeah.
Bella has very youthful features, and it seems like they haven't aged that much from when they played Lyanna Mormont in Game of Thrones as like very, very like,
Mm.
I don't know, 8 or 9 year old noble. And so I think it might be hard in, you know, moving. I guess there's not that much time jump now, but if in the future there are significant time jumps, it'll be interesting to see how that's handled. And that's just like a weird little take that I had.
I mean,
yeah,
it's definitely a challenge to say Pedro Pascal's our lead actor and then kill him. And I mean, Bella Ramsey is definitely talented, but she's not, or sh- Bella's just not as well known as Pedro, obviously. So
Mhm.
it's gonna, yeah, people are gonna be conflicted and like not super happy about this. And I guess this was pretty much along the lines of the game. A lot of people were unhappy that they couldn't play as Joel through the second game when that was, the main character that they knew and really got behind in the first game.
yeah. I feel like it's hard for me to say how good of a decision it was until we see the conclusion to the arc.
Yeah.
But I was like here for it. I very very surprised and intrigued by it.
Yeah. It's like
But
it's a bold move, and
yeah,
we can't fully evaluate it until we know how it all pays out at the end.
I
It,
yeah, I applaud the boldness.
yeah, it seems like they had that. I think the first two episodes were great, and the twist there and killing. I mean, the lead up to it was like, are they really going to kill him? Are they going to kill him? Are they like, is this really happening? And
Yeah,
then it does, and you're like, oh shoot, like they really did that, and that was all done super well, and the whole battle in Jackson was really exciting, and I mean, I thought someone maybe like Tommy was going to die in his flamethrower fight against the
yeah,
big guy, whatever those big guys are called. So there were a lot of cool things happening. But then it's just a matter of, okay, we've got through that, and now we kind of reset and we're doing this vengeance plot line and like can we execute that properly? And it sounds like from some of our previous conversation around Ellie, we're like we're a little mixed.
yeah. I was slightly disappointed with that how it's handled so far, but um, hopefully things turn around for me in the next season. I'm also kind of bummed, like having not played the games. I've heard season one was a pretty good direct adaptation of the first game.
Mm.
Does the second game really need two plus seasons?
It's a
Um,
lot longer of a
is
game.
it?
I think like the story for season or for game one is probably like 15 hours ish, and the story for game two is, double or even
Okay.
more than that.
Okay, so maybe it is warranted. Um,
From what
and
I've
it might
heard
just,
from my game player friend Max, Jake, who you know,
oh,
the
nice.
the second season is laid out kind of similar to how the game plays out because you go through, I think, about up to this point as Ellie, and then you switch and you play as Abby, and then which is what the show is doing. It looks like
Hmm.
season three is going to
Yeah.
be like Abby's story up to this point. And so you go through and you're like hating this Abby person, and your character that you're playing is like intent on getting vengeance against her. And from, I think Ryan, you said this earlier, like it seems like they kind of dialed it down. From what I know of the game, it does seem like in the game, Ellie is going through and just like killing all of these wolf sidekicks that killed Joel that were there when when Abby killed Joel. And so it's like very heavy on the vengeance, very dark. And you as a player are like, this is my mission, and it's like feels super justified. And then you switch and you play as Abby, and then you see like what Abby's perspective is, which I don't know because I didn't get the spoilers, didn't ask for the spoilers on that. But it sounds like at least like the format is pretty faithful to how the second game goes.
I think I would have preferred that in the show to have that more darker, heavy focus on vengeance, especially if they're going to do a switch. I think that makes it more impactful to have like, okay, we're gung ho on this, and then kind of pull the rug out from under you to give you the other side of it. But I'll have to play the game to
Yeah.
really know.
And
Maybe
see,
I'll play. Go ahead.
I've played part of game one, and it was, I think, a little surprising to me to see like how brutal Joel can be in that game against like people like he and Tess at the beginning, kind of like just shoot a guy in the leg, trying to get information out of him. And you're like, Joel is like not a good guy, he's definitely uh, morally gray person. And I've seen some footage of Ellie and from game two, and she's, like killing members of the WLF and Seraphites, pretty brutal ways. So, I think that is something that, is better, experienced or explained in the show. Um, but that's kind of why I was asking about, the 7 episode length of this season. See, I feel like if they had more time, they could show more of these types of things rather than,
Yeah.
just Ellie like stumbling across Nora. Maybe she's like more directly like seeking Nora out, or something along those lines where you can actually see the process of
Mm,
the vengeance. Um,
Yeah.
but just as an aside, one of my favorite things about The Last of Us is that you get like inside the episode that you can watch with various actors and Neil Druckmann, the creative director at Naughty Dog, and
yeah.
also Craig Mazin. And they
I like
also
that
do a
Max does that.
podcast. Yeah, Max does that. And they also do a podcast with Troy Baker, the guy who voices Joel in the video games, Craig Mazin, the writer and sometimes director.
Doesn't he play Tommy too? Isn't that the guy who plays Tommy?
No,
No.
Craig Mazin is the guy
No,
writer.
not Craig Mason. Troy, whatever.
Troy Baker. Does he I just know
I'm
he
pretty sure.
voices Joel. I'm not sure if he voices Tommy. He
I think
doesn't
no, I think he
play
plays
Tommy.
Tommy in the sh I think he does.
No, his
Does he
name's
not?
Gabriel Luna.
Oh, who does he? Doesn't he play someone in the show? I thought he did.
He might have had a cameo. Ashley Johnson,
Oh,
the girl who voiced Ellie, played Ellie's
hmm.
mom in the show.
Yeah, what am I
Um,
thinking? Anyways, go ahead.
so
Ryan,
um,
Google says that Jeffrey Pierce is the voice actor for Tommy. Oh, wait, you said
No,
the voice actor for
of
Joel.
Joel.
of
Yeah,
Joel.
Okay.
I've got us way off track.
Yeah.
So, but I love that they have they have like discussions after every episode. You can like go and talk about, the differences between the game, and you can hear from the perspective of the writer, Craig Mazin, and also the creative director at Naughty Dog. And like talking about like, oh, this is why we did it like this in the video game. This is why we did it like this in the show. And so it's interesting how like you know that they're both, intimately involved in these decisions, and like they have good reasons for changing things in the show. That's something that we don't really get in very many adaptations that I really appreciate about
It
this
is
show.
cool to get the behind the scenes because otherwise the behind the scenes consists of us like speculating with
Hmm.
no real insight.
Yeah. Um, Jake, maybe you're thinking about the fact that the guy who plays Isaac in the show also voices him in the game. I'm blanking
N-
on the actor's name.
Troy
No, I
Baker
I
has a
got it just
cameo.
yeah,
He
he has a
has a
cameo
cameo.
in season one. I got it way mixed up and blown out of so yeah. He was part of the maybe he was in the episode with like the cult, I think. I think he was in that episode
Hmm.
in
Okay,
season one.
there are cameos in the show. That's the
Yeah.
insights that Phantology is bringing to the table
Well,
here.
yeah.
But yeah, yeah, I agree with you, Ryan. I think it's cool to see the like I don't listen to the podcast, but I do watch the behind the scenes thing, and I like that they do the same for Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon and other Max shows. That's a cool little benefit.
And one little like across the fandom thing that I've had is Neil Druckmann has said, like the people who make the best adaptations are those who are passionate about the game. And he's like talked about how Craig Mazin, played The Last of Us and really loves the game. And there's also, I think, a screenwriter or cinematographer whose name I've forgotten, but they're also a fan of, they're like passionate about it, and that bringing it back to at Dragonsteel Nexus, Brandon
Yeah,
Sanderson
nice.
has said he's he doesn't really, it's not about, how much money you throw at something. It's about finding the right people who are just passionate about the source material, who want to, adapt it as best they can. So anyways, it was just a
That's that's what's got me so scared about the Harry Potter show. We were talking about that. I really think the only thing in the way of that being a success is if Warner, HBO, whoever's technically in charge, is doing it just as a cash grab. Because if you had passionate writers behind that, I think a series version of Harry Potter could just kill it. But little tangent.
do we know who's in charge of it?
Well, I mean, ultimately in charge. I'm sure the names are out there, but I just feel like there's going to be a lot of. I worry there's going to be a lot of producer intervention similar to Wheel of Time.
I mean, there's a lot of really passionate people about Harry Potter, so
There are a
Yeah,
lot.
but I believe Rafe was also passionate about Wheel of Time, and I think there was a lot of Amazon shenanigans involved there. So
Hmm. Amazon will not be interfering in Harry Potter.
that's true.
So,
But the
yeah.
makers of the fourth Matrix will be interfering with Harry Potter potentially. So
Okay, what else do we have from season two? Let's see.
I think we need to reiterate just
Yeah,
how amazing the first two episodes were. Just
yeah, yeah. We
amazing.
were probably, I mean, we were probably a little down on it, but overall, like, I enjoyed every episode when it was coming out. I was always excited for it. I think it's interesting how a story about zombies ultimately doesn't really focus on the zombies. Like it's about the human side of like what happens in these situations. I think that is much more interesting than what this horde of zombies is ultimately up to. So I think that's a really good way, a good take on this. And I mean, that's not like a brand new idea because I feel like a lot of apocalyptical shows are like, this happens, now what are humans going to do about it? But that
Yeah.
is, yeah, that makes the focus there makes it a lot more interesting.
I do feel like this I mean I used to be really into The Walking Dead, and that one has a big theme as well of like when the apocalypse happens, a zombie apocalypse happens, it's not the zombies that are like the worst thing out there, it's other humans. But that one felt like more, I felt like that is more the point of the story, like at large, like it's this larger thing. Whereas
Hmm.
The Last of Us is interesting because it's very much just like their story, like Joel and Ellie's story, and
Yeah.
now maybe Abby's, to like a more focused degree. Like it's like yes, it's set in this zombie apocalypse, but really like it's so
It's a
good just because of this story is good.
it's a human story about
Yeah.
love and what people are willing to give up and sacrifice for love. And like I thought episode 6 was the best of
Yeah, it
the
was really
season.
good.
I mean, episode 2 obviously was really exciting, but I feel like the emotional stakes of episode 6 were awesome. And like the things that you were thinking about, the themes there, like Abby, or not Abby, but Ellie saying to Joel, like, you took this choice that I had away. Like this was something that I could have done to save like
Yeah.
all these people, and you denied me of that. Like I thought that was super interesting.
Yeah. And like, I mean, not to play devil's advocate, but okay, Joel is trigger happy in general. Like he has that survival instinct of better to shoot first and make sure you're safe. But at the same time, like how likely would it have been if he was like, whoa, 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 let's make sure Ellie can make this decision herself? Like how likely would they have let Ellie make that decision, you know? It seems like a
Hmm.
fairly likely chance they would have been like, no, we're not going to do that. Like we're not going to miss this chance.
They
And
probably
then it's
wouldn't. Yeah.
yeah, and then it would be, and then he would be at a disadvantage, even more so to save
Right.
her, you know?
Right.
So again, that's not taking into the consideration like saving one person over potentially saving humanity, but um
Hmm.
like what, yes, he robbed her of that decision, but it seemed unlikely that that decision was on the table for her at that point.
True, but I think what she's saying is like I may not have been totally aware of this, but if I
Oh
had
yeah,
been,
yeah.
I would have,
Yeah.
done this.
Yeah, I agree there. I just mean for the, again, just playing devil's advocate, that like
Yeah, yeah.
he had no way to know that she would make that decision. And so it very much was this, if he wanted to save her, that was the only way that
Yeah.
he could
Yeah.
possibly go about it. But
Yeah, that's fair.
So I really liked episode 6, and I think that the opening was phenomenal with Joel and his dad, and his dad saying like, you know, I did like my dad didn't beat me, or my dad beat me
Hmm.
worse than, I beat
mhm.
you. And he's like, I'm trying to do a little bit better, and maybe you'll do a little bit better than me. And so I thought it was, beautiful when Joel says the same thing at the end of that episode when he's like, I hope you do a little bit better than me. And it's also kind of haunting, to see where Ellie goes in the next episode. Um, both with um, killing Owen and Mel, and like continuing her pursuit of vengeance in spite of her conversation with Joel there. Um,
Do
and
you think, go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Well, I was like, do you think she didn't, you mentioned this earlier, I wanted to ask you, do you think she didn't try to rescue the baby out of like spite or vengeance, or just because she was overwhelmed?
Yeah.
I don't think it was like spite or vengeance. Um, but I do think that it was more so like I don't know. She's overwhelmed, and it's a long shot, and like I'm not gonna try. But if that was Dina there on the ground, she would be trying to save that baby.
Yeah, I didn't see it as a choice of like, oh, I'm not gonna try. I saw it more so like I have no idea what I'm doing here. And without the like I think you're right that if it were Dina, I think she would try, but I don't think that's because she's deciding not to because they aren't Dina, but more so just like what is even happening here, you know?
Yeah.
Another
That's the vibe I
am
got
I
too, because she was like, where do I cut? How far and do I press?
yeah.
Like, and then part of her is probably also thinking like, I'm marooned on this like little wherever I am in the aquarium, and I've got this like, there's no way this is gonna go well. Like, how could this end? Yeah, yeah,
Now,
It's a good question.
another way that I think if they wanted to go full on vengeance, like they could have focused on how that was a decision, not, that she was like, no, I'm not going to, although that whole scene was, her killing them was not intentional anyways, but,
right.
um, yeah, kind of fun, side note, kind of fun that it's so in Seattle. Steven and I were just in Seattle a month or so ago, and that was fun to,
Yeah,
see some similar sights, but
Your trip was
yeah,
a little bit different than
little
theirs.
different.
yeah. Seattle was in better condition when we were there.
Yeah. We didn't take any rowboats, but we took some ferry boats. So basically the
Nice.
same.
Can we
Um,
just can we talk about the finale? Like, I just so they made this decision to purposely withhold information because they want you to be like asking questions of like, okay, what's happening behind the scenes? We know something's going on with Isaac and his wolf people, and we know that the Seraphites are like, you got enough to know that they were in a war, but then it seems like Isaac's like counting on Abby to take over, and they're sacrificing everything for whatever's happening. So there's a lot of questions that we have as viewers that we don't get answers for, which I mean, seems fine. It seems like they'll answer those in season three for sure. But I just thought the whole thing was, I struggle with that decision because it's going to take a year and a half for season three to come out. I'm not going to remember what exactly was set up in the previous episode. Like, yes, I could go back and rewatch it, but I don't rewatch a whole lot of things. So I'm gonna go into season three and they're gonna be answering these things and it like, okay, but there's not gonna be any payoff from my confusion when I was watching the finale. And I don't know if that was the right decision for TV. I think it works for a video game and it works if episode 8 and 9 are coming like right around the corner and are gonna answer the questions, but with the long gap, I don't like it.
I mean,
Yeah,
I think that's just like commentary about TV in general. I don't know that they could have found a better place for the game to end the season and still, try and faithfully adapt it without, significantly changing the structure of how things work within the game.
I mean, why purposely set up, why give you enough information to ask questions but not answer them, knowing that you won't get answers for another year plus?
this brings up a lot of questions for me.
So what questions in particular? Are you talking about like Abby and the WLF?
Yeah, Abby, Isaac, the just like Seattle in general, like the whole state of this city, what is going on?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think part of it is like you're kind of in Ellie's shoes and you're like discovering it as she is. I mean, not
But Ellie
entirely
doesn't
because
Ellie doesn't know any of the stuff that the viewers know about Isaac.
right. And so I mean, not entirely, but I think that's a lot of the structure of the game. And so I don't know. I haven't played game two, but I think it's set up in the same way where you play as Ellie and you go through like 3 days in Seattle, and then you follow Abby's story through in the Seattle for those 3 same days. So, I mean, I think part of the structure is just, revealing a lot with Abby's story. They're saving some of the story to tell later. I do agree with, what you're saying as far as um like the cliffhanger is frustrating because honestly, it's probably going to be like 2 years or more until the next season comes out. And at that point, it's like, do you even care about it anywhere near as much as you do in that moment where you watch it? I mean, so I think that there's valid criticism. I don't know if um I would necessarily change it. I don't know how you would change it.
Yeah, that's where I have a lot of questions. I have been vocally a fan of I'd rather wait longer for better content than get more content of lesser value. And obviously there's a way to min-max that. But so I generally haven't been too down on these longer wait times, with the exceptions of like with Stranger Things it matters because of aging, you know. But I agree that it does like it's a bigger bummer for this because this is like one story that is like very split. It's a big cliffhanger. It's more like I'm trying to think back. I honestly don't remember the finale of many Game of Thrones seasons other than the first and the last. So I don't remember how many cliffhangers there were. But you get this a lot in books, like speaking of A Song of Ice and Fire, where
Right.
you'll have like, and I'm not throwing shade at Winds of Winter, but more so like in general, when the next book comes out, it's going to be years later, and sometimes series will have like a big cliffhanger. Um, but it's more of a
Right.
bummer
Like, is
for
what's going on with Jon Snow, man?
yeah. Again, not that I wasn't intentionally throwing shade at the
Yeah.
exceedingly long wait we've had. Um, but this brings up the questions of like with the book, it takes time to write all of that. Like like it takes time to get the writing. With a TV show, where like what is the time constraint? Because like going back to like when you had these yearly 24 episode shows that were filmed probably in 3 months, and it was like pretty like back to back. It's like pretty heavy shooting days, and then you have a season, and then you wait a year, do that again. But for a lot of that was because you're doing 24 episodes, right? But for these 7 episode shows, like what is the time constraint
Like
to re
we're making reverse progress here.
well, I'm just thinking like
Zoom
how
just
Jake
did
how
just
a
did the
Zoom.
thumbs down.
Yeah, Zoom
oh,
just did
did
a
it? Sorry.
thumbs down emoji for you. Ties
Well,
in perfect.
I'm thinking like how great would have been if they doubled the filming session for this, which let's say 16 episodes even. 16 1 hour episodes versus like the 24 TV show was 24-hour long episodes. So if they did 16 of that, it's still shorter than that kind of show. And then what if they at least made them come out a year back to back? Did all the filming sequentially and then gave us a shorter release time in between? Like, what is legitimately stopping studios from doing things like that? Is it just their yearly budget? Like, is that why? Is it just,
Hmm.
or like, is it the scheduling with the actors? Like, why are we seeing these longer wait times?
It's a great question for this show because it's it's set in Seattle, like it's the same sets and every like the
Yeah,
same
yeah.
group of actors. Like, yeah, it that seems like a really realistic thing that they could have done.
Is it the same
May,
sets though? I'm pretty sure in the
well,
podcast they talk about the fact that um they don't have like standing sets. They build the sets for
Hmm.
each season.
I guess that's fair. It's
okay.
gonna be the same vibe of the sets. Like it's all in
Take sets
Seattle
out
and
of it. But
yeah, okay.
All right.
there's a little more time there, but
So the
still.
the other thing is that season 3 wasn't greenlit until like I think just before season 2 was released or something along those lines. Now, I don't really know all of the nuance as to like why it was greenlit before you even see the reception to season 2. But I mean, from a budget perspective, what if you're
Yeah.
increasing the budget of the season before you even know you're actually going to use all of that
Yeah.
footage?
Or if they
Now,
just
I
We
made
mean,
it
I
have
all
think
season
that
two. Make it all season two.
yeah.
Release it a
Yeah.
month later.
We've got to green light more than one
Faster.
season at a
Yeah.
time. Like
Yeah.
these
Especially like
production
this
companies,
returning show.
Yeah, the streaming services have got to greenlight. Like it just kills momentum to
And
like keep this going at a snail's pace of the green lighting. We can't do anything until the execs sit down and look at the like. Let's just do it for some of these. Like we know Last of Us season one was great. Let's
yeah,
just say we're doing two
exactly.
more. Let's do it right now. Let's
Yeah.
just say yeah.
I agree.
Like
Yeah.
it's like is Game of Thrones greenlit? Was that greenlit throughout? Like after season one, when season two was renewed, was it just renewed one more season?
I don't remember. I'm sure at some point they're like, this thing is awesome. We're greenlighting the heck out of whatever
Because
they
that'd be
they do.
insane. Like in The Last of Us, I don't think it's as popular as House of the Dragon, but it's like really popular. It's one of their standout shows. Like, you know, you're gonna have this huge cliffhanger. Just greenlight them like through the end. And
Yeah.
like
I mean, it wouldn't be the first show that would suffer from, you know, executive, you know,
oversight
disturb
or another.
oversight, and it won't be the last. I haven't seen House of the Dragon season two, but I heard that,
You
people
never
weren't
watched it?
thrilled. I watched a few episodes of the first season, but I haven't seen any of the second season. I heard that a lot of
Wow.
people were upset with the fact with the length of season two. I think that
It
something
was,
about
yeah, it
like
lost like two episodes.
the CEO of Max is like all about shorter seasons now. And so I think, that definitely played a bigger
Hmm.
role
I
in House of the Dragon, but
Season two was not as good as season one of House of the Dragon, but I don't I liked it, I guess, more than most of the critics did. I don't think it was like a huge
It was
drop in
just
quality.
missing. The only problem was it
Yeah.
was missing a big explosive finale that I had set up for. And instead
Yeah.
the finale was a setup for
Yeah.
the answer to everything that they've been setting up. All so
Yeah.
it seems like season three, episode one
It's
is
gonna be
going to end up being
huge.
like the finale of season two.
Yeah. But it didn't, to me, that didn't mean the season was like lower in quality. Like it was literally just we got less of the story.
Yeah.
But the story was almost as good as season one, in my opinion.
But
But
yes, Jake, your question of why can we not continue, like why can we not go back to the early 2000s of producing a large number of episodes in a short amount, like we're now doing fewer episodes, longer time. How does this make sense?
and like
uh,
if it is like I get that story, and that's why I brought up the book comparison. Because I get like if you're writing the story, like it takes time to write, but like this story has been done. So like I feel like yes, there's still writing work that needs to be done, but like it can be I feel like it could go like if you had people working more days during the year, that could happen. So like where's the constraint? I don't know.
um, I
Is it
think
just
that
money?
I
Probably.
think that having the writing of a game versus a TV show, or even a book versus a TV show, it's probably more similar to having like an outline before you write a book, because
Yeah.
there's still like lots
Yeah.
of like, what do we keep, what do we
Yeah,
cut, what do we change, um
for
and
sure. For sure, but it's a more solid outline than like you wrote a hit book and now you have to write a sequel. That's like, okay,
yeah.
how am I writing a sequel to this? You know, you're there
and
more.
and the other thing that takes a long time is post production. Just there's so much post production with today's TV shows,
True.
that
That's a good point. That
24
it that
doesn't have like lots
yeah.
of CGI or
Yeah.
practical effects, I don't think.
And if that's the main reason that things are taking so long, I'm okay with that. I think it's worth having the high quality zombies explode and run into fortress walls. So,
But I mean, I
Yeah.
agree that it would have made more sense to greenlight, seasons two and three and then shoot them back to back. Um, and, then you're doing post production on season two, and then you can just jump straight into post production on season three and get that out, I don't know, within a year or something.
yeah.
Seems like it. I heard potentially they even want to do a season four.
I don't
Yeah, I don't
yeah,
know. I don't
that's
know
what
if
I've
they've
heard.
been clear about if game two will be made into two seasons or three seasons.
Yeah, I heard that
which
it was at least 2 seasons to tell game two's story.
which that seems like milking it at this point.
Yeah, it could be, and it could also be like, is there going to be a game three? I don't know. My insider source, aka my coworker, who's
Yeah.
named Joel, shout out to Joel.
What
Um,
up,
he
Joel?
se- he seems to think that, they are for sure developing game three.
Really?
Um, like in his mind, there's very little doubt. They just haven't announced it. I think they're
Hmm.
he who knows what they're waiting for. They
Hmm.
probably don't want to like take too much attention away from like Intergalactic, the Prophet, which is the
That one
game
looks
they
so
just
good.
announced. Um, so I yeah. Anyways, I don't even remember where I was going with this thought.
Sounds like they're shadow developing game three and the
Hmm.
hopes of releasing it and then like big announcement, we're releasing the game and we're also adapting it into a TV show. So buy the
Yeah,
game and watch the show and
they
yeah, that would
don't
be
they don't
cool.
want to catch up to the source material, so that's
Huh.
why they're going to extend it into a fourth
The
season.
whole thing is a mastermind.
Uh-huh.
Oh man. All
This
right.
makes
I
me
think
really want
that's
to play the game though.
yeah,
Really want to play
it
the
it
games.
it does it's on PC now. So even though I don't have a my
Yeah,
excuse is always I don't have a PlayStation, but I have no more excuse.
yeah.
Jake has a PlayStation and he also has the game because I
Do I
have
have
the
the
game
game?
and we game
Okay,
share.
I have the game. My excuse is I'm always playing Baldur's Gate with the bros. So,
Hmm, accepted.
and now
These
Night
words
Rain.
these words are accepted.
Nice.
All right, Seraphites, I hope you feel her love, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we're gonna close with that. Thanks, Jake. Thanks, Ryan.
See ya.
Have a good one.